Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are having a great day so far, and today we've got a foundation review for you. I'm super excited about this foundation. This is the Dior Forever Natural Nude foundation. So this is brand new. It seems to have temporarily disappeared again. It was kind of back and forth. It released properly in the US, but here in the UK I couldn't find this anywhere, and then it popped up on the website but you couldn't add it to cart, and then it came back briefly in one shade. It definitely has more shades than that. I think it's got something like 17 shades. They've lost the olive shades from the range with this foundation. So far from what we've seen, it looks like they aren't including the WO shades, which is normally the shade that I would choose. So it was only on the website in one shade, 3N. So you can probably tell it's a hair dark for me right now, but you know, spring is around the corner, so I'm okay with it. And I just wanted to be able to review it for you guys. Usually I use 2WO in winter and 4WO in summer and kind of mix in between. So I'd probably be like a 3WO right now would have been my preferred shade to pick up, but that wasn't an option. The only option I had was 3N, which is, it's fine. We're going to be all right. So this foundation sounded very exciting to me. It claims to be very natural, very hydrating and skin-like and undetectable on the skin. It also appears to have like plumping, smoothing quality and have 24-hour wear, which obviously is, you know, a little long for most people to want to keep a foundation on. But it all sounds fantastic, doesn't it? So let's see whether actually it's as good as it sounds. So I ordered from the Dior website, as I said, and it comes in this glorious packaging, which is always a bonus when you order direct from brand websites, is that you get all the bougie packaging, which I love. Here is the very unexciting external box, and inside this beautiful bottle, which I really love. I really love the nude tones. It goes very well with the name of the foundation. I love this like nude cap and the like white writing on the bottle. I think it's gorgeous. The cap does feel like it will wipe clean quite easily, but I am immediately concerned as to how filthy this is going to get after you've used it a few times. So let's have a little look at the consistency. So it's just about moving. It seems like it's kind of a medium consistency, not super runny and not that thick either. And it does have a noticeable fragrance. So we'll see how kind of overwhelming that is as I apply it. So as usual, I'm going to prime my skin with the Tatcha Silk Canvas. As always, this just gives me a really reliable base that I know exactly how this usually performs, never usually causes me any issues. So if it does today, then I know whose fault it is. So as always with foundation review, I'm going to do half a face with a sponge and half with a brush to see if there's a big difference or a big preference. As I said, this shade, it's, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fine actually. I thought it was going to be a bit darker than that, but I think because it's not a full coverage foundation, it's going to be fine that the shade isn't, but I mean, it's pretty close to be honest. Yeah, okay, I don't know what I was worried about. That's a decent shade for me. Okay, so applying, you can definitely notice the fragrance. It's a nice perfumed fragrance. It smells a bit like lemony. Don't know if anyone else gets that, but that's what I'm getting. I'm getting a kind of lemon pie type of vibe. Just me. It's definitely giving me a kind of light medium coverage pretty quickly with a sponge, which I don't know that I was expecting that. I don't know if I was expecting a bit less coverage initially with a sponge, as it tends to, you know, soak up the product. Feels very hydrating going on. Like I feel refreshed and hydrated. And it's taken, you know, the vast majority of redness, evened everything out really quickly. So far it is looking very natural, which is nice. Obviously this shade is darker than my face, which is quite a bit lighter than my body. I mean, even in the winter that happens. It's just, you know, skincare and things like that. I mean, what's happened here? I don't even know. I seem to be getting into a lot of scrapes lately. Okay, so a pretty light layer versus a bare face on this side. I'd say, I mean, there's definitely redness still peeking through. It's probably a light medium at this point. Very natural and skin-like. I feel like this looks almost as if I'm not wearing foundation yet. So that's exactly as described, exactly as hoped for. I did about 3 pumps and the pumps are quite small and I've not really used very much. So let's try a brush on this side and see whether we can get a bit more coverage going on. This is my Rephr 17, by the way. Going on just as nicely as the other side. It's kind of taking a bit of time because this brush is a smaller brush. This is my favourite type of brush to go on because it's a bit small and you can kind of get around everywhere, but it does take a bit more time than a huge foundation brush. But still, we're getting a light medium coverage again on this side. Not much difference really as far as coverage. I've now used everything on my tray, pretty much used the same amount on both sides. There's maybe a hair more coverage on this side. I think you can I feel like you can see a bit more redness still peeking through on this side versus this side. So far, this is, it's natural is definitely the correct word. I feel like it looks so skin-like. You can still see my skin through because it isn't a full coverage, but it also just like the finish and everything and the texture just looks very natural, very skin-like. So far, I'm really liking this. This is just what I needed, just what I was looking for. So I think I'm going to go in with my sponge. I'm just kind of preferring the way it's going on with that. There's not I couldn't point out a specific difference necessarily. I just think it's maybe going on quicker with the sponge for some reason, which is interesting. It's just sometimes the texture or how thick or thin or runny, etc. with the foundation just makes a difference as to, how it goes on. But yeah, I felt like it was we were getting the result I wanted quicker with the sponge pressing it into the skin as opposed to buffing. Definitely building nicely, no issues, but it's not giving me a huge amount more coverage. It's still staying really nice and natural, and I'm just kind of building over the areas where I've still got a little bit of redness that I'd like to kind of hide a little bit more and conceal a little bit more and even up a little bit more just in those places. But yeah, I think it's definitely staying a more medium coverage. I'm not sure this is really going to build to a full, which is fine because I don't think it claimed to be mega full coverage, to be honest. The natural nude, this is what you would kind of expect. Okay, so here we are with two kind of layers of this foundation built up to a medium-ish, light medium coverage. It looks very, very natural, very natural. That's what I'm I feel like this is skin-like, natural. It's got a bit of glow to it, but that may dry down less so. It's certainly not dewy. It's not as glowy as the Forever Glow. It's kind of giving me Pat McGrath foundation vibes right now. That's the kind of closest thing that it's reminding me of. It's definitely neutralised a lot of my redness, but not all of it. You can definitely see skin still peeking through. It's not really soaked into smile lines yet. It looks good on my forehead. So it's a good solid start. So I'm going to finish off the rest of my makeup and then let's see how it's settling in. Okay, so it's been about an hour since I first applied this. I finished off the rest of my makeup, had a coffee, potted about a little bit, and here we are. So I didn't set this foundation. I very rarely set my whole face with powder. I have normal skin. I don't need to set it in order to make most foundations last well enough, a solid 8 hours for my skin type personally. So I really never set my whole face, and I didn't today. Everything went on top of it beautifully. I had no issues, nothing moving, nothing picking up, nothing lifting up, nothing strange happening whatsoever. Here's a super close up of the skin, the starting point, I guess. It's definitely, the edge has kind of gone off of the shine. This is highlight, obviously, the body of my skin. You can see it's not as glowy as it was now that the foundation has dried down, and it doesn't feel tacky. It feels like it has dried down. It feels like it's kind of set itself, and there's no pick up on my fingers when I touch my face, which is great. It just looks very natural, very skin-like and perfected, but with skin showing through and just looking really natural. It has settled slightly into this. This is my deeper smile line of the two I'm currently blessed with, and it has slightly creased in there. A lot of most foundations do, but we'll see how that goes throughout the day. It's not in my better smile line, just the deeper one that I have on this side. My forehead is looking good. I'm really happy with how my forehead is looking at this point, and this is kind of my aging zone, my problem zone that shows signs of aging the most out of everywhere on my face, you know, lines, texture, crepiness beginning to appear around my mouth, that kind of thing. And it's looking really, really nice there. So I think this is going to be a good one. If you have more mature skin, there's no reason at this first initial stage for me to think this wouldn't work for you. I still feel like I can barely feel my face feels really hydrated and it feels super lightweight. Like I can't feel at all that I'm wearing foundation. My skin feels hydrated and fresh, which is really nice, and it looks hydrated and fresh as well, which is always a bonus. So I did take a flash photo and everything looks beautiful. It looked really, really nice in flash photography, so that is definitely a tick in that box. No issues. There's no SPF in here, so you wouldn't necessarily expect it, but stranger things have happened to me, let me tell you. So I'm going to go about the rest of my day. I've got some more filming to do, some editing, some school running, general mum chores to do. It's not a particularly testing day today. It's not particularly hot. It's sunny, but it's like 12 degrees outside, so it's not a testing day. So I certainly expect this to look pretty immaculate at the 8-hour mark. So let's fingers crossed for that, and I will be back in a few. Okay, so we're back. It is just coming up to 6:30. It's 6:20 if we're going to be specific. It's 6:20. So I think it's probably between 8.5 and 9 hours since I finished applying this foundation. Now, as you can see, it stayed pretty stable. It is a hair too dark for me, as I said, but you know, it hasn't got any darker throughout the day. It didn't oxidize or anything like that. I took some natural daylight footage just so you could kind of see how it looked in natural daylight for you, and this was at about the 4-hour mark. Now, whenever I do a foundation wear test, a new review, trying out a new foundation, I try to just notice it throughout the day. Like every time I go into the bathroom, every time I pass by a mirror, when we drove to get takeaway coffee or drive-through coffee today, and again looking in the mirror of truth in my car, all those kinds of things, and just think, what am I noticing? How am I feeling when I look at my reflection? What am I thinking? Am I thinking ugh, or am I thinking you know, that's how I kind of measure things on noises. And with this foundation today, my overriding thought whenever I kind of checked out what's happening is how natural it looked. It very much does. I feel like it lives up to the name, is what I'm saying. It looks very natural, skin-like. It's not as glowy and dewy as what my typical preference is, but it does look hella natural. It does. I feel like it just looks like my skin. Now, this area here is where I can still see redness poking through, and that slightly bothers me, but that isn't, you know, the foundation is doing what it says. It is that sort of kind of in the middle medium coverage. It's certainly not a full coverage. It doesn't look like a mask. It's not hiding everything. It's not covering everything, but that is something that I kind of noticed throughout the day for myself. I kind of prefer like a hair more coverage, but there's definitely times when I feel like being, you know, is she wearing makeup? Is her skin just amazing? And this is that type of foundation. It photographed beautifully, as you saw, and it has worn incredibly well, which is what I was hoping for. Given that it claims to be 24-hour wear, it had better wear for like a good 9 hours, right? So let's just have a sneaky peek here. So I think you'll be able to see that it has soaked into these horizontal lines that are across my top lip. That's pretty much the only change. That and like the undersides of my nose, it's kind of worn away. I've had a bit of a runny nose today, and I have been kind of like just dabbing under there, and it's slightly worn off there, but the end of my nose is still really good, and my chin is still really good, and those are always the places where foundation starts to show its wear on me. Always like the chin, it starts to fade off there. It's still looking really good. My nose is not looking shiny, and my forehead is not looking too shiny either, which is fantastic and quite unusual for foundations at the sort of almost 9-hour mark now. To not have got, you know, a bit shinier in my T-zone or anything like that is very, very nice. It didn't get any worse in my smile lines, and it didn't soak into my lesser smile line. It's still in the deeper one that is on this side, but that was how it started and that's how it finished. Coverage here is pretty much where it started, I feel. You can still see highlight, bronzer and blush, which is always a good sign, kind of shows that there's not a lot of fading gone on underneath if you can still see those products vividly. And yeah, my forehead started off well and finished well, like the lines don't look exaggerated. The texture around this area, I feel like it looks really good. And I've just really felt like my skin looks fresh and natural and healthy, which is literally all the things that the foundation claims to do. So tick, tick, tick. So it's definitely a so far so good with this foundation. It's a slightly different foundation to my personal preference. I feel like I prefer a high medium coverage, one that maybe is just a hair more coverage than this, so that my redness is like completely covered but still skin like. And I also prefer a little more glow. That's generally my preference. The Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate and the Shiseido Natural or Radiant Lifting are kind of my two benchmarks. They're like my top two at the moment. The Estee Lauder Futurist as well is right up there. That's my medium to full skin like natural finish, glowier, bit luminous. That's kind of my benchmark. This is like, I feel like it could potentially get there. I want to keep trying it. I want to keep playing with it. It's worn very, very well. I didn't set it, as I said, so it could have worn, I mean, I don't really know how it wears better than this, but if you have maybe oilier skin and you set it, I feel like you'd be fine. It feels super lightweight, super comfortable, barely feel and barely see that I'm wearing makeup or foundation, that is, which for lots of people is great. It also wasn't transferring. I picked my kids up from school and I actually carried my little boy all the way back from school today because he was a little bit upset. He'd just fallen over and there was no makeup on his face, didn't come off, transfer on my hoodie that I put over the top to just do the school run. So that's all fantastic. Lots and lots and lots of pros about this foundation. This packaging, I absolutely love it. I know it's not flashy necessarily, but I just love that. I think it's classy and understated but still beautiful. But yeah, so far I have no complaints. I think it looks really good still at this stage. I think it's got a beautiful natural finish to it. I do kind of wish it had a hair more coverage, but you never know. I'll play around with it. Maybe I can get a little hair more, maybe if my redness was slightly more in check, which maybe we can work on. I'd love it to just fully cover the like redness and uneven skin tone, just but maybe I can get there. Maybe I can build it up a hair more than I did today. We will see. I'm going to keep trying. This is definitely one for like my natural people who love a natural no makeup look. If you love a full beat, full glam, I don't think it's going to give you enough coverage, but it is going to give you that beautiful natural skin like appearance. So yeah, that is who this foundation is for. Absolutely agree with like the vast majority of the claims. We'll never know about the 24 hours because I can't do it. So that is the tea on this foundation. So far, so very, very good. I'm going to keep trying this one out over the next few weeks and going back and forth with some of my favourites and just seeing how it compares. And I will, as always, update you in my favourites. What month is it? It's March, okay? In my March favourites, I will update you on how I'm still going with this one, and hopefully some more shades will have rocked up by then. So I hope you found this review helpful and I would love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.